Mika this morning got named to Team Sweden. Tonight he scores the first hat trick, Winter Classic history, first 5-point game in outdoor game history. Just what can you say about what he means to this team and the job he did tonight?
So, what he means to the team, he's one of our core players. We rely on him in so many circumstances out there on both sides of the puck, both offensively and defensively. He's I think just a real good player that can play on both sides of the puck. And, I think he's one of our more cerebral players with how he processes the game, how he thinks the game. But it's hard to express in words what he means to this group and the contribution that he has to helping us have success. When he has a game like he has tonight, I think he's the type of player that can will our group to win. And, I thought there were some others tonight that played extremely well also, but I think, I think Mika, obviously, the impact that he had in the game was significant on both sides.
Right side, front row.
Mike, after you've gone through it, can you just sort of assess what you thought of the scene, the atmosphere, the spectacle, the ice, all of it?
Yeah, it was an incredible atmosphere. I think it's hard not to get excited about it. Just the venue was terrific. The presentation was great. I mean, the enthusiasm is infectious, and I think you can see it in the players. The energy they brought to the game. These types of events are so much fun to be a part of, and as I said before the game, I think the league just does a great job in embracing the kind of the uniqueness of each venue, and they're all different, and that's been my experience, and this one is unique in its own way. And but I thought it was, I thought the atmosphere was dynamic out there, and you can just see it in the energy in the players. I think, it means a lot to those guys, and I think they had a lot of fun participating in an event like this.
Left side, front row.
Just coming into the game on a 3-game losing streak, you get more bad injury news yesterday. Just how much did the team need a win like this against a team like that?
Yeah, well, it's obviously there's so much parity in the league, and and we're in the middle of an Eastern Conference where there's only a handful of points that separate most of the teams, and so every point is so vitally important as far as trying to stay in the playoff race, and I think that's just the reality of the league with the parity in the league right now. So, we've gone through a tough stretch here the last couple of games and haven't gotten the result. Obviously I think the energy around an event like this, and a lot of the activity around an event like this, sometimes if you're not careful, the unintended consequences, you lose sight of the fact that these are two real important points in the standings. And that was something that we tried to have a discussion with our players about, and just making sure that when the puck dropped, that everybody understands what's on the line here and the impact that it could potentially have, and how important it was for us to stop the bleeding, so to speak. And I thought the guys did a great job. I mean, we competed hard. It wasn't perfect by any stretch. Give Florida credit; they play hard as well. They're not easy to play against, and I thought our guys competed hard.
Right side, front row.
Mike, along those lines, I mean, you haven't had a lot of nights like this where you were connected in all three phases. Huge PK in the third period, followed by a power play goal. And not only that, the guys who you need on the score sheet were all on the score sheet tonight. So what was different that you sensed other than just the event?
Yeah, well, obviously when our top players end up on the score sheet the way they did, it just, I think it puts our team in a much better position to win. And but I thought it was more than just that. I think I thought our best players were our very best players tonight. I thought they contributed on both sides of the puck. They play in all the key situations. The special teams were a big part of it. I thought we got timely goals from our power play. I thought our penalty kill did a great job. We have a 3-goal lead. That's a scary lead in today's game. There's a lot of 3-goal leads that disappear in today's game. Because to a certain extent, you're battling human nature, because human nature wants to exhale when you get a little bit of a lead like that with a lot of hockey to play. And so, it's a constant battle against human nature to continue to try to, play with the intensity and, the level of purpose that you need to. I thought the part of the game that I was really happy about was after they scored the power play goal to make it 3-1. That the next 4 or 5 minutes leading up to the power play goal that we get, I thought was a really important time of the game, because that could have went one of two ways. If they get another goal, it's now all of a sudden it's a 3-2 game, and it's a hockey game, and those circumstances are hard. And so I thought the guys did a real good job just trying to heighten their intensity level and try to establish the game we wanted to play that led to the power play, that opportunity that we got. And then obviously the power play I thought was terrific. I thought Brett was had a real good night as far as with his execution, his decision making, not just on the power play, but just overall, but in particular on the power play. And obviously that's a huge goal for us.
Last one, left side, back row.
Mike, you spoke a lot about the hoopla and everything else. How impressive is it to you that your team was able to get to what is essentially your road game in such a marquee event and stick with it? And why has that been the case all year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if I have a great answer for you. It's, I think sometimes when you play on the road, you're just trying to, there's an inclination to want to, it's a whole lot easier to sell the message of simplicity. And there's value in simplicity in today's game. When you play straight ahead, you try to put pucks behind opponents, establish forechecks, defend hard. I think when all those elements are in play, all of a sudden you become a hard team to play against. Having said that, you got to give Florida credit. I mean, they play hard. They're hard to play against. They play a straight ahead game. They're number one in the league in dumping rates. That's a discussion we had with our players before the game. We knew we were going to go back for a lot of pucks, and there were going to be a lot of rims going back for a lot of pucks, and we were going to be in those circumstances. We were going to have to handle their pressure. If we could make wall plays, if we could handle their pressure, we were going to get looks. But the challenge is they're going to challenge you to beat their pressure. And I thought throughout the course of the night, sometimes we did. When we did, we got good looks, 2-on-1s, odd man rushes, things of that nature. When we didn't, we ended up in our end zone, and we've got a tiger by the tail. But I thought when we were in those circumstances, I thought we defended really hard, and the looks that they did get, I think we have one of the elite goalies in the game that makes timely saves for us, and he makes it look easy back there. So I don't know if I have a real good answer for you on why we have an ability to to add an element of simplicity to our game on the road, but it just seems that way, that when we play that way, we seem to get better results.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Okay.